Have you ever stopped to think about how we all just know how to watch a movie? How we understand its language without ever being taught? Well, a huge part of the credit goes to a nearly forgotten pioneer named Béla Balázs. He was a film theorist who, almost 100 years ago, basically taught the world how to see. He gave us the very tools we use to understand film, not just as fun entertainment, but as a powerful, brand new language for all of humanity. So let's just jump right in with one of his most powerful ideas. Balázs was convinced that film wasn't just a spin-off of theater or literature. No, it was something completely different, something radical. For him, it was like humanity suddenly growing a new sensory organ, a whole new way to experience reality itself, and he believed we desperately needed it. So here's our game plan. We're going to break down his revolutionary ideas, starting with the problem he saw with the modern world. Then we'll get into his almost utopian vision for what film could be. After that, we'll look at the two key tools he said made up film's unique grammar. That's the close-up and montage. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see why his ideas might be more important now than ever before. To really get Balázs, you have to picture his world. We're talking the early 20th century. This was a time that was being torn apart by war, by nationalism, by all these conflicting ideologies. And at the root of it all, he argued, was a world that had gotten completely lost in words. Balázs had this core belief that relying so heavily on language, what he called word culture, was actually pushing us apart. He saw it as a kind of modern-day curse of Babel, where words were building walls and creating misunderstandings between countries and people. And in this noisy, word-filled world, our true selves, our inner souls, had basically become invisible. But film was the answer. It offered a visual culture, a universal language that could lead to what he poetically called mute understanding. Okay, so how on earth could a new art form actually make us visible to each other again? This was the heart of Balázs's grand, ambitious vision for the cinema. You know, what seems obvious to us now was a huge deal back then. He had to insist that film was not just a camera pointed at a stage play. He saw it as a completely separate art form, as different from theater as painting is from music. It had its own grammar, its own vocabulary, and its own unique power. He called film the world's first truly international language. Why? Because it's all based on things we all instinctively understand: gestures, facial expressions. He pointed out that for a silent film to make money, its story had to be just as clear to someone in San Francisco as it was to someone in Smyrna, to a princess and a factory worker. His hope was that this could actually break down national divides and create a kind of shared psyche for all of humanity. So what are the nuts and bolts of this new visual language? For Balázs, it really boiled down to two crucial components. And the first one, maybe the most important of all, was the power of the close-up. Now, he argued that the greatest strength of film wasn't what you might expect. It wasn't about showing us those epic landscapes or massive crowd scenes from far away. The real magic, the real revolution was something much, much smaller. It was the close-up. Simply by moving the camera right up to a person's face or an object, film revealed an entire world that no one had ever really seen with that kind of focus before. This, for Balázs, was film's true terrain. This was where the magic happened. And this quote just perfectly captures his point. He was writing about the silent film star Lillian Gish, and he noted how in just a few seconds, her face could communicate a whole symphony of conflicting emotions. To try and describe that same emotional storm in a book, he said, would take many printed pages. The close-up just hits you with a speed and depth that words can't even touch. And this led him to one of his coolest, most specific concepts: microphysiognomy. It sounds complicated, but it's really about all those tiny, subconscious twitches and flickers in our facial muscles. The little things that give away what we're really thinking, regardless of what we're saying. The close-up puts that hidden drama on full display, letting us see straight into a character's soul. Okay, so if a close-up is like a single word in the language of film, then montage is how you write poetry. It's the art of cutting shots together to create a brand new meaning, one that isn't actually in either of the shots by themselves. Let me show you what I mean with a classic example of what was called idea-associative montage. Imagine a director shows you a quick shot of a stock exchange ticker, numbers flying by. Then, bam, they cut to an image of a battlefield. What just happened in your brain? A new idea is born, right? It's created by the collision of those two images, an idea that was never explicitly stated. You, the viewer, make the connection,
Maybe war is really about profit. Maybe human lives are being treated like stock values. Suddenly, you're thinking about the economics of conflict. That's the power of montage, to make you think abstractly.
And Balázs's contemporary, the legendary director Sergei Eisenstein, he put it perfectly. He said, from image to emotion, from emotion to thesis. That is the path. The filmmaker uses images to make you feel something, and that feeling then leads you to a bigger idea. It's a way of guiding your consciousness. All right, so all these theories come from the black and white, silent era of movies. What does any of this have to do with the stuff we're binge-watching today? Well, everything. When you get right down to it, this is Balázs's greatest gift to us. He gave us the vocabulary. He taught us how to actually read the visual world around us. His ideas, the visible man, microphysiognomy, montage, they give us a framework to understand the powerful and often totally subconscious ways that images are shaping how we think and feel every single day. So here's a little challenge for you. The next time you're watching anything, look for this language in action. Pay attention to how a close-up tells you what a character's really feeling, even if they're saying the opposite. Notice how the editing, the cuts between scenes, makes you feel something specific, anxious, excited, suspicious. And look at the background, the props, the setting, what Balázs called the face of things, and ask yourself what emotions they're trying to communicate. You know, Balázs had this incredible dream that film could be a universal language that would bring us all closer together. And today, we are just drowning in visual media that crosses every border in an instant. So that leaves us with one big final question. In our age of TikTok, YouTube, and global streaming, was he right? Did his prophecy come true?